Of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Dear listeners, I salute you with the salutation of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to a brand new show, to your show, The Modern Family. And today we have a topic probably far away from parenting, and there are no any tips on how to deal with children. However, it's a topic today that we would like to discuss. It's about what really concerns a lot of youth, not only youth, but many parents as well. And maybe some men who are connected more to a feminine side. And today, maybe, everyone is laughing in the studio, and maybe, yeah, we will discover something about Hatim and maybe me, and how connected are we to our feminine side. We are talking about fashion and identity. How is it connected to identity? Is it just a hobby? Is it something that we just do out of boredom? Or is it something is more, there is something behind it? Does it say something about you? Is it a way of expressing yourself? Today with me, Hatim Al-Abdussalam, and our wonderful guest, Hadil Al-Musa. So welcome Hadil.
Thank you.
And congratulations for the month of Ramadan, which was the end as well. And Eid Mubarak in advance.
Eid Mubarak to you as well. Thank you.
Hatim.
Yes.
Are you fashionable?
Well, that's a difficult question. Depends who's asking. But when it comes to fashion, I have mixed feelings. There's a lot of things that are connected when it comes to fashion. I remember one incident that happened to me 2 years back. I was invited in Ramadan for a TV interview. And the assumption that people have is that people who are more interested in religion, that they will always wear white with a white turban.
Mm-hmm.
And normally in the evenings when I go out, I like to change my looks. So I wear a colored dish dasher and a colored turban. And I said this is going to be interesting because it's an evening interview. So I wore a almost a cream dish dasher with black lines, and then I wore a black turban. And I remember very clearly when I entered the TV stage, the director, jumped out of his seat and said, "What's this? What's happening?" And I said, What's happening? And he said, What are you wearing? I said, I'm wearing dish dasher and a turban. He said, no, please go home and change. We don't want you to create a chaos to our audience. I said, why? I haven't done anything wrong. It's just a dish dasher and a turban, but a different color. He said that normally people presume people who are religious have the white look. That's the word that he used, the white look. I said, okay, but I'm human being. And I'm like anybody else. I'm not, a monk or anything. And I can wear colors, and it's permissible. It's fashionable, and it's permissible in our religion. So what's the problem? He said, no, please. I don't want to lose my job. Just go and change. And I had to go back home and change. And
really?
Interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Hadil, when we talk about fashion, we would like to introduce parents into the world of youth, because this is something most probably is related to youth, and it's something that concerns youth more than a lot of parents. I'm saying a lot of parents because there are some of them who are fashion conscious. Although we would like to define today these terms before we go into the actual meanings. I would like to introduce to our listeners Hadil, who is now doing her PhD in
social identity as part of the factors that are related to our decision-making process, and more precisely in career decisions.
In career.
Yeah, but the social identity, it's based on your identity or your self-identity. So, and fashion is part of it.
Yeah.
That we think maybe if we define fashion or putting those in categories, and then we can say we are fashion conscious. But the thing is, we are affected by fashion.
And that's exactly why we chose you today. You are a mother of three. A mother of three, sorry. Yeah. You're doing a PhD, a research in identity as well.
Yes,
It
it's an
plays a
identity.
factor in social identity. So we thought you'd be the perfect person to talk. Plus, you're a woman and you know a lot of people who...
I'm part of it.
You're part of it.
Yeah, at the end, you're part of it.
Being a woman, is enough to qualify you.
I think
for
they're born with
this
it.
topic.
It's wrong with it. I like that.
So, can we define, please, what is fashion, what is style, and what is trend, first of all?
Yeah, I'll go first to the basic meaning, and I'm not going to use any academic definition in this. I'm just using, you can, Google it, or Oxford dictionary that gives you these terminologies.
Mm-hmm.
Fashion itself is a manner of doing something, literally. Likewise, style. It's a manner of doing something. It's an approach. So when I say management style, leadership style, it's an approach. It's a process that you do and you keep doing all the time. The thing is, how it's been contextualized, fashion, it's been related to time, as I'm going to use a definition that was used by Tom Ford, which is a designer, that fashion, it's related to the moment and time. So it reflects that moment, that period of time. At the same time, it's part of it. So it always has the time element.
And it assumes that this style will have to change, or this fashion, because if you look at the linguistic meaning of it, it's the way we do things.
It's the way we do things, the very basic
things.
meaning, yes.
And now Tom Ford says, no, the way we do things will have to change, because of time.
That's his definition to fashion. While
Yes.
his definition, why I use Tom Ford, I think he's a bit deeper in the way he designs clothes and things. The way he defines style, it's an outer expression of your character.
Okay.
So he defines fashion that it's something to do with time. So something can be in fashion in this month. In the next 3 months, it's going to be out of fashion. As we say, the fashion of the 80s and fashion of the 60s. So it's related to that time, to that period of time. While when I say style, someone has a nice sense of style, but not necessarily he's fashionable. He's speaking what he wants from the fashion, and then he puts it together. So if we use it in a more metaphorically way, I would say, I like to use it that way because it's by setting examples, you're going to make it closer to understanding. We communicate to the world by the way we dress up. So fashion is the language. There are so many languages that you communicate to the world. Style is the vocabularies you're using.
Okay.
So you are sending vocabularies. You are saying something. You are putting in a statement out there without speaking. With the way you're showing yourself. With the way you're conducting yourself in public. And that's why image, of course, image is very important because we judge according to image. Like, for instance, if I see you, I know that you're Muslim immediately.
Yes.
If we go to Europe, we're known. So that's a statement we're putting. That means our religion is our priority because that's the first thing I'm putting in my identity.
That is our style.
That is our style, that's our fashion, and that's our identity. It actually can be mixed together, but it's not our trend. Now, trend, when I say trend, again, if we take it out of the context of fashion, trend, it's more precise with time. Like, it's been defined as a social category. By the way, trend is a social category that is associated with a person who follows fashion. This person is trendy, which means any fashion will come, this person will follow that fashion. So that guy is trendy. And that fashion comes in, or being trendy is not necessarily in clothes. It can be in, in perfumes, in technology, in a lot of things.
Yeah.
Everything, exactly.
I can see two distinct, images now of two different people.
Okay.
One, because this is what we want to take across, to bring across to people, to our listeners, is that, okay, we have a trendy person and we have a stylish person. A trendy person, the way I imagine him, is him or her is someone who just follows.
Follows the fashion, yes. Follows, absolutely.
Stylish, a person who can follow or who can make things himself and still look presentable and nice. Stylish, not necessarily following the fashion.
Yes, if absolutely. So yes, trendy is following, if we can precise on that word.
Yes.
While being stylish is choosing
The right thing that suits you.
the right thing that suits you.
So I live in the 21st century.
Absolutely.
I wear a turban that has been there for more than a millennia. Yeah. And I like the way I look. I'm presented in front of people. People look at me and they still respect me. So I'm not following a fashion because it's not something new. I'm not following, I'm not, let's say, trendy because wearing a turban is not part of, let's say, modernity. Yeah. It's something very, very
Out
old.
fashion and
Yeah.
old fashion, yeah.
Some people might say out fashion, but you know what? It's very old. However, it still has its presence. It's very strong presence. And you wouldn't say to someone who wears that turban as, you know,
It's actually an identity.
unpresent. Yeah, okay.
It's an identity, and it's a statement that you're putting about that identity.
Yeah.
Why we're relating this to identity, if I can, exactly the example that you said is, it's interesting because, as you mentioned, that you're wearing a turban and you're stating that you're not following the trend. You're stating that you care less about the latest fashion, and you're stating that you are connected with your inner values, and you're stating that your religion is your first priority, and you're creating a zone around you. So the people who want to deal with you, gonna deal with you on your terms.
Yes.
If you travel to Europe or you travel to the West, for instance, by putting a scarf or putting a turban, I'm stating who I am. And the person in front of me will deal with me. But because there is perception about what being Muslim is, so you already created your zone. You already created your space. It's very interesting that we have to understand a bit of the fashion history because we need to, I mean, history is part of everything.
Yeah.
Why I want to bring this? Because we need to understand why fashion is very much, or taking that big part of our lives. And according to Tom Ford, fashion is business. It's a capitalist world. It started, I'm not criticizing, I'm going to say it in a different way as well after I define it. It started in the 1920s when fashion means expressing yourself and then the liberty and so on. And by identifying who you are, and it was a trend at that time. But then the companies took over. If we come even to the designers in the 1950s and 60s, 70s as well, and until now, most of them, they had values when they started to design. They wanted to present something by that design. I really would like us all, regardless of age, when we wear any brand, we need to understand the value of that designer. What did he wanted to say by using this? Instead, for instance, sometimes we criticize something, by the way, in the media, that, you know, people do this, but the thing is, I'm wearing their design. I'm wearing their brands. So it's
Contradiction.
exactly.
Yeah, so
exactly.
we wear a design that we wear for a designer.
Yes,
At the same time, we criticize every value he stands for.
exactly.
So
Then
that is really bad. Huh?
no, that's not that. If we put it in a bad, yes, it's bad. But if we think of as in the globalization word, it's we're living in a globalization, an internet and capitalist, pure capitalist world. In the capitalism, we're defined by the material things that we have, the material achievement that we do, the thing that is visible, that you see. And remember that now, in these days, the exposure is really high. So the amount of information that you're exposed to online, I mean, it equals the amount of information we used to, you know, get in months or
Yes,
years.
yes.
So this amount of information, including fashion, including those slogans, including to create this consumer behavior among the mass, it's creating followers because it's easy to follow than to think. Number one. Number two, it's when you follow, you get socially accepted. Like, for instance, if you're traveling abroad and you want to fit in that society, you have to be a bit of cool. So you're going to try to dress up in a way that shows how cool you are. And these kind of values, creating different mass, but at the same time, creating one image of that mass. You can't really, you don't see unique personalities in the way they dress up. That's why the vintage, for
You only
instance,
see followers.
you only see followers. So we need to understand what actually fashion industry is going, what does it do?
Let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hatem. Let's go back a little bit. When you said maybe it's not a bad thing that we ignore the values of that brand or designer. Yeah.
Nobody reads, by the way, generally. No, but because those designers the new designers, with all my respect, most of them, I see a need. It's entrepreneurial thinking.
Yes.
I see a need. I see a business opportunity. It's the product that I can create. And that's why I can open up a business.
And I see
in
the
this.
market segment.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm targeting.
Exactly.
Will I, as a person, follow a designer? I know his values, his or her values. And I don't agree with any of the values. However, I would buy whatever their product represent. Do you think this is a positive thing? Because when I look at it, I see, okay, I'm behaving. Okay, it's a behavior. I am behaving in a way, regardless of values. Yeah. If I don't care about other values, what does that say about me? It also means that I don't care about my own values. Values are not important. I just act based on what my own desire. I like that shirt, I'll just buy it.
That means desire is your priority.
Yes,
Yeah, but
exactly.
I think
that is
I
what
think now people have distinguished between the brand name and the values. They don't look at the value of that brand.
exactly.
They
this
just
is-
follow that name.
this is what I'm
Why?
saying.
Because
That
it's
name.
portrayed in the media.
Yeah.
That, for instance, if you were, it's like, for instance, if I say a Mercedes, what does a Mercedes represent?
Elegance.
Elegance.
Yeah.
If I say a Mustang, what Mustang represent?
You
Noisy.
Use noisy. You can't. For instance, I'm going to say this, although it's a bit of joke, but you can't imagine the guy in the Mustang listening to Kulthum.
No,
No,
you can't.
Why? It's associated that way.
Yeah.
While the guy who's driving a Mercedes can listen to Kulthum.
If I say a guy in a Mustang, listen to Kulthum,
You're going.
he's stolen it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
he's stolen the Mustang, or the guy with the Mustang stolen the Kulthum paint.
There's something wrong with it.
Something wrong.
That's
Absolutely.
how it's portrayed in the media.
Yeah.
That, for instance, if you dress up in that way, that means you're elegant, that means you're cool, that means you're whatever. These are all concepts that are ready made through companies.
I want to take you a little bit back to when you said in the 1920s when the fashion trend has started.
No,
And
that
the concept of revolution,
the concept of
how
self-expression,
how to express
yes.
yourself,
Mm.
and liberation.
Yes.
Okay, was this affecting both genders, or that because the way we see it is that it affected more the feminine side or the women more than the men? Because if you see the fashion trend from the 20s until now, more or less the trend in the men's fashion world is very, very slow. And it has not changed rapidly the same way it has changed for the women. So, for example, men in the 1920s wore suits. And today people still wear suits, maybe different colors, maybe a little bit of different patterns. But for women, it was dramatical change. So was that an effect of that was the market segment that they were focusing on, or that was the need, or women thought that maybe they were not liberated, they did not have their freedom, and it was time for them to express themselves more than men?
There are many reasons, if I may say. But again, if I go back to the social identity generally, that as women, one of the things that defines me as women is what? Being pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the easiest way to make people think how pretty is. And
Yes.
again, you define it. How being pretty, the makeup, it's not the makeup you wear, it's the how you wear it, for instance, what dresses and so on. Men, on the other hand, part of their identity is being muscular.
Yes.
So when I say like,
But they brought man bags now.
yeah, that's
Man
why.
bags.
I don't have one.
That's
I don't have
why.
one.
Nor do I have. I'm using the old wallet. Yeah.
That's why they
Yeah.
come to men through different things, games and electronic and other things that really put them in the trend, not necessarily as an outfit.
What a sissy. Yeah, taking man bags.
No, but you might think that way, but to others that might be something which is fashionable, which is a trend, which is something okay.
By the way,
yeah.
In Oman, for instance, we're still wearing dishtasha, and dishtasha is and abaya as well, as considered as part of who you are and your social status and your social class and so on. But generally, in the world, it's not that way. And the thing is, they're coming to the youth. By the way, even Oman is coming to the youth that if you want to be cool and fashionable and so on, you need to dress up. And men, as women in the new generation,
Are being affected.
are giving a lot of thinking to how they look.
Yeah.
And the new world, the youth, it's defined by what I own and how I present myself rather than what's inside.
Yeah.
Do you remember the trend, Dr. Weil? As men, we wear the dishtasha. They all look the same shape. Okay, and then suddenly there was a trend where the dishtasha became more tight in the waist and more wide in your feet. And then even the government interfered in this, and they stopped the shops from
Fishtail dishdashers.
Yeah. You remember that trend? I don't know if you
I've seen guys around.
Yeah, it was
looking
really
weird
tight.
for me.
Yeah, really tight.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
You know,
yes.
they looked like the Sufis in Turkey.
I think the Sufis would. I think.
By the way, the Sufis has fashion.
Yes,
They have their own
the
fashion.
The Sufis' fashion, the way they look, I think, is more dignifying. It's actually they look good, yeah, and they look dignifying.
For you.
Yeah,
For
compared,
you.
yeah. I mean, compared to
Compared.
what we see, the new trend of dishdashes. I mean, I know. Even in women's dress, you have different pieces, different cuts.
We have bisht abayas.
Yeah.
We wear bisht
Yeah,
abayas.
bisht abayas.
The dishdasha
We're trying
has
to be
several cuts.
Connected with our masculine side
Yeah.
with the bisht.
You have several cuts for the dishdasha, and
Yeah.
what they did, they removed the side cuts of those.
Yeah, the
of
middle
the
part.
dishdasha, the side cuts. They removed them, so it became so tight. And I don't think it's honorable at all, because the way it presents a person, especially in a society, and this is something that we would come to and we'll discuss later after the break, which is priority, fashion versus society. Yeah, it is something we would like to discuss.
Okay.
Before the break, we would like to further go into expressing oneself through fashion. You said that in the 1920s it became very important to express yourself through the way you present yourself through fashion. I don't totally agree with that, although I think expressing oneself through the thing you wear is important. It is something even addressed in our religion. Yeah, Islam is a religion that hasn't left anything untouched. It discussed the way we dress. In fact, one of the first thing ever being imposed on human being, yeah, to Adam and Hawa in heaven, is to dress up. Yeah. فَطَفِقَا يَخْصِفَانِ عَلَيْهِمَا مِنْ وَرَقِ الْجَنَّةِ. And here you can see that the first idea of dressing up came for a purpose, and that purpose is not looks, but mainly to cover up. That is the main purpose. And that is the main reason why you dress up, is to cover up your body. And then came other things, because the verses that follows, it says, يا بني آدم خذوا زينتكم عند كل مسجد. Whenever you go and pray and present yourself in front of God, present yourself in the best manner. Yeah. Then the way you dress moved. Yeah. And there is an added reason. There's an added reason now, from just covering up into actually looking fashionable and looking good, well presented. So expressing yourself through the way you look is there in Islam. It is there, part of us. What I don't agree with is that it is the only way of expressing yourself, because I think it kills the intellectual part of you. We express ourselves intellectually, the way we speak to people, the way we interact in kindness, and the way we dress is only one part of it. Because, you wouldn't go into a wedding looking like a tramp. Yeah. You wouldn't go there to an interview wearing Bermudas and and a cap sideways, or your trousers pulled down. Yeah, you wouldn't do that. Otherwise, all you're saying is that, guys, I just came here to pass time and waste your time. I'm not interested in the job. Yeah, you would go into a job looking professional, and looking professional means something in the way you dress. So expressing yourself through the way you dress. This is the message that I would like personally to take forward to parents out there, that when you see your children and teens wearing something, you need to look deep into what that actually represents and means. And before you go into being so hard on, especially on your teens, you need to get into discussions into what life actually means to you as a person. Yeah, to speak to the teen, what life means to you as a teen. Understand from the teen what is it exactly that is important in their lives, and what is fashion to them. And maybe you can actually be fashionable with your teen. Show them that you are interested in fashion, interested in something that is so close to them. Yeah, we can't take fashion out of our children and teens.
By the way, you can make it close and you can make it far away if you precise more on the style part. You know what I mean? I totally agree with the point that you said with the parenting, that we need to be closer to our kids. But the thing, assuming that fashion is very important to them, it might not be. It might be our assumption. But before doing so, we need to see our fashion. What are we actually saying to our kids?
Through the way we dress.
Through the way we dress?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, because we lead by example.
Exactly, so we are communicating to them. Maybe they are actually being rebellious in the way they dress up, just because they're against you in certain points, so they're getting your attention through the way they dress up.
And I would like to mention something that my father always, when he used to take us to the Friday prayers, he would always put on a turban. He never said it to us. But that action saideth a million words. And I always remember, I can't remember him when we were little, that he would ever go to the mosque without actually putting on his turban. Although for the majority of the times, and we would go and visit people here and there, and he wasn't that formal. But when he went, even other prayers, he wouldn't make that effort and put on a turban. So that action really made me personally reflect a lot on how we need to present ourselves during Friday prayers without him saying a word.
Without him imposing the command on you. Never. Indirectly, you got the
not
message.
Not even mentioning it, let alone commanding. Not even mention it with words.
It's through the way you dress up.
Yes.
And when and how. That's how they learn. That's how they learn. And sometimes they're against it. And that's why they try to get your attention through the way they dress up.
And most of the time, the argument that our children would have with us is when they see our old pictures, and they challenge us and tell us that, okay, you have been through the fashion trend as well, and you did this and this and that, and you wore this and this and that. Why don't you allow me to experiment as well, the same way that you have experimented in your good old days?
Before we go to break, we'll talk about this. Just before the break is already 1:30. A friend of mine, we were together in 1998 in the UK. He told me the story when he was still in secondary school. He said, I wore one of these black bands. It was very fashionable. Yeah? And wearing bands, handbands, is not a masculine thing in our culture. Yeah? And he didn't have any purpose. It's not one of these bands that you wear today to monitor your fitness. It's a band.
Do you know where it's coming from? I discovered it's come from the car engine. It's a seal. It's a seal.
Okay.
So there you go. So it didn't have any meaning to that guy, but he wore it.
That's what he think.
He wore it, yes, so he wore it. As soon as his father saw him for the first ever time, one word he said, or one sentence, he said, "Son, I'm looking forward for the day that someone will also come and ask for your hand." See? He was wearing something that is more feminine, wearing something, a bangle or a ring. It is in our culture perceived as a feminine thing. This guy said, "I never thought why I wore that
Maybe he
bracelet
saw
or
some of
ring."
his friends
He just saw
wearing
it.
it, yeah.
But when my father put it into context, I took it away, yeah, because he made me feel that I'm looking more like a woman, yeah, and one day a guy would come and ask for my hand. So I immediately took it away and never put it back again. So different parenting styles, effective. Not only, he didn't tell him take it away. He made
When was
him
that?
think.
1998.
90s, it's,
Yeah. No, the
Yeah.
story was told in 1998.
Okay,
It
so-
happened 2 or 3 years
Yeah,
earlier.
we'll get back to this.
We'll get
We're
back
on
to
that.
this after the break.
Okay.
Dear listeners, today we're discussing fashion. We would like, as parents, to get closer to our children and understand exactly what's going on in their world. So I would like to you also to join us in the discussion. Call us on our number 24602058. That's 24602058. See you after the break.
The Modern Family.
May Allah bless us and make us of meaningful benefit to everyone around us. The last point I would like to mention this evening. What makes her different is that she is not enslaved by the adverse environment around her. I touched on this at the beginning, let me say it again. She is not enslaved by brand names, by trends. Imagine you have a trend, people are doing things, so we all want to do that. Everyone has their hair and it comes down to the front and it's painted pink. So everyone has to paint it pink. Why? Because that's what Beyonce did. Allahu Akbar. May Allah protect us. If that is the system of operation, we've lost focus. So what makes her different is she is original. That's what makes her different. She is original. She is herself. She knows I'm a believer. I owe my life and my existence to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't owe it to the trends around me that are un-Islamic. If there is a good trend of people who are reading the Quran, people who are engaging in halaqat and engaging in different forms of learning and getting closer to Allah, then that is a brilliant trend, mashallah. But we're talking of the evil trends around us. A believing woman is never ever enslaved by the trends. Rather, she is original. She remains on the same thing no matter what. The world can come up with all sorts of things. Do you know, if you take a look at the shoes, subhanallah, may Allah protect us. A lot of women are guilty of focusing on shoes. So when you open the cupboard, you have 45 pairs of shoes. You have the clogs and the court shoes, and you have the high heels and the slops and the sandals and so on. Pink and green and orange and purple and mauve. Like I say, I don't even know what color that is, I just heard it. But they've got all the colors. Those shoes are not helping them walk towards paradise. Why? Because they're not focused. I'm focused on shoes. When you get to the grave, are they going to ask you how many pairs of shoes did you have? Is that what's going to happen? Not at all. No way. Your shoes are so irrelevant that you are buried without them. Perhaps your children are fighting, this pair I'm going to take. No, I'm going to take. Okay, you take one, I take one. May Allah safeguard us. I'm not saying you're not allowed to have shoes, please. Just now we'll see everyone barefoot. Allahu Akbar. But are you focused on shoes? Because it's the trend. They wear this type of shoe, now I've got that one. They wear that type, I've got that. You can operate with a shoe that's beautiful, comfortable, lovely, and it serves the purpose of your feet. Do you know, a lot of sisters, sadly, have calluses on their feet and blisters because they are using shoes that they do not fit into, that are so uncomfortable, but just because they want to wear shoes that are acceptable in the eyes of those who are the slaves of the trends and the brand names, they would do that. So if that's the case, we have a bit of panel beating to do by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same applies to your dress code. The same applies to everything else. We don't need to be, or what makes her different is, she is not enslaved by the trends and the brand names and so on. She's not enslaved by entertainment and parties and nightlife and what have you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us be focused on the akhirah.
The Modern Family.
Come back. Dear listeners, welcome back to your program, The Modern Family. and we were just at the storytelling, bedtime storytelling with Dr. Wael about his friend who was wearing a black band on his wrist. And I think, Hadil, you have something to say about that story.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, it was 1998 or for us, 1990s, which at that time, there's two things I would interpret from this story. The first thing is, at that time, the exposure was very limited. So you get something, you see something through friends or through the TV, which we had a couple of channels at that time. I can't remember if we had
102.
102. So the exposure that you have, it was much less. And so as a parenting style, that was effective at those days. It still is to certain kids and to certain contexts. Depends on the relationship of the kid and the family and the parent. However, nowadays, you have a huge exposure. The kid is getting so much information before he actually travel. And that information, like for instance, we think, I still remember a friend who, when he joined our PhD, he was like, we're all multicultural here. I thought it's all going to be blondie and people are, blonde. I was like, it's not always what you see on TV. And there's always a black side of everything. Yeah. But the thing is, what you see, you create perception. And the kids are getting so much information. If the parent said so, he might take it off in front of his father. But then he might share it as well on Twitter and social media. And then he will reveal his expression, his thinking that my father is not understanding me and so on and so on. And then he will attract other people who go similar to the same thing.
To give their opinion about that as well.
And then they might create a network and they might express themselves in a different fashion, because you're not actually, if we think about fashion, it symbolizes that period of time. So the kid's actually saying something by wearing that, where this is my second point, that if we go to the self-discovery, as we were mentioning, that we'll focus on self-discovery. Sometimes we pick things in fashion, or we like certain fashion or certain colors or certain style without really knowing why. And we start, even as adults, we start dressing, speaking like, the role models that we think that they represent what we believe in without really knowing what we believe in. Okay? But the thing is, when we start doing these things without really knowing, I would suggest that keep, a notebook, monitor. Why do I like this? What does this fashion says about me? What statement am I trying to put out there by doing so? What statement is my son is doing? Why is he dressing up that way? Who is he trying to be like? Who's his role model in terms of fashion?
Does he understand? Yeah, one of the questions, does he understand that by following this trend or this fashion, he's setting a role model, or is he just doing it without knowing? It is an important thing to understand if my child do have a role model,
of course,
or not.
It's an awareness as a parent as well, that's why, remember last year when we were speaking about social media, if you have a teenage kids, you have to be on social media, and not being in a way that I'm following you and I'm seeing what you're tweeting. No, I'm your friend out there. Yes, it's like not another, exactly. It's like, let them feel comfortable by having you around in their circle. If they don't, they're going to create other accounts. They can fool us easily. That's their language. This is not our language. So in order to communicate with our kids, monitor even the way they dress up. Who are they trying? Like if they come and talk to you about Lady Gaga and you don't know nothing about her, or Justin Bieber and you know nothing about them, you don't know what language they're speaking, what fashion they're following. Sometimes we do things just to get socially accepted amongst that circle, because there are things in that circle which I see valuable. And that's why I'm dressing up the way they are doing. There is a very nice Egyptian movie, okay, and it's called ثلاثة يشتغلونها for Yasmin Abdulaziz. It's quite old, maybe 7 years back or 5 years, I'm not quite sure. The thing is, it shows that every time she follows a school of thought, okay, and the first thing changed is her appearance. So if she's following the punks for a while, she starts dressing up like that. Yeah, it's in the movie, and then the Islamists and so on. So she follows different school of thoughts. The whole concept was that she was following different school of thought.
And the way you're saying it, school of thought.
Yes.
But the way she presented herself is nothing to do with the thought.
No, the
She
thing
started
is,
with the dress code.
the dress code is the symbol of that school of thought.
Yeah. Like
That's
the hippies. Yeah.
Hippies is a school of thought
It's
as
a
well,
school of
but we
thought.
never actually thought
Yeah.
of reading about them.
Yeah.
Fashion in the history, the thing is, we categorized fashion as fashion in the 1920s, okay, or maybe earlier than that. But the thing is, we were practicing and reproducing fashion way before that, since Adam alayhi salam,
Yeah.
without putting it in that category. In history, people take fashion as a unit of analyzing that society. And here where it comes the relationship with the society.
Yes.
That the society, there is a norm. If you're part of that social group, of that social identity, you are dressing up in the way that fits that social category. But if you want to show that you're not actually with them, you don't usually get rebellious on the way they dress up. It's the thought that you think about. So I'm not with them, I'm not going to dress up like them. I don't follow them.
So in the journey of self-discovery, any teenager would go through a journey of self-discovery. Yeah, and this is something parents really need to understand. They would do a lot of things. They would try out a lot of things. It is our responsibilities as parents to raise our children from a very early age, to make them understand what is it that we could experiment, and what is it that really unquestionable? We could still think about it, yeah, but unquestionable.
Can I add one point
yeah,
in this
sure.
parenting thing?
Yeah.
I would suggest that sometimes we need to talk to our kids in a way that, not thinking that we know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because we learn from them. They're a new generation. They are facing things we didn't face.
Yeah.
They are exposed to things we were exposed when we were in our 30s. So it's quite different. Ask them why. What does they see in this? What does this represent? Or sometimes even out of, like...
During their teens, I'm
Yes.
talking, we need to prepare them from a very young age, when we have little children, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds.
By the way, even
Yeah.
when they're 5-year-olds, if you just, command that they have to dress up that way, you're creating followers.
So, yes, exactly. So what we need, when we raise our children, we need to raise them in a way that we enable them to be able to think.
Absolutely.
Enable thinking. Yeah? Promote thinking. Promote questions.
By the way, when you promote thinking, you're going to create a kid who's going to debate firstly with you.
I don't mind.
Absolutely. So we need to prepare ourselves
Yes,
to actually
yes,
be able.
because I don't think debate. Some people might, mix up debating with a father and arguing.
Absolutely.
Arguing is totally different.
Absolutely.
Arguing is disrespectful. Yeah, but debating
It's
is intellectual. Yeah?
I think
and
what
children
you're
are
trying to
debating.
say-
They're much more smarter than we were.
Children
when we were
are
kids.
debating. Once a father, a child overheard his parents, talking about putting him in a school that is far away from home. Yeah.
Okay.
To put him in that school, he will need to live within the vicinity of the school, which he doesn't. So the father was telling the mother, you know what? We'll just register him as if he is living there. Immediately the child said, Dad, isn't that what we call lying? Yeah? And that debate started between the child
And the father.
an 8-year-old with his father. Yeah? That is lying. Can you justify that? Yeah? It's a proper head-on collision. Yeah? With values. And you know what? You can't say anything to the child. What you can say, Allahumma barik fi, may Allah bless this child, and you know what? Good on you, kid. Yeah? Do it again and again and again. Yeah? And if I did a mistake, or a father did a mistake, and the child reminds him, it's exactly what Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, the Khalifa of the Muslims, when he, on the first day in office as a ruler of the Muslims, he went to bed. And the first thing his child told him is that, what are you doing? Are you really going to bed now? With all the money and all the unjust that has been done before you? And you're going to bed? You can't go to bed until every penny taken away from the Muslims goes back to them. What did the father say? Listen, don't teach me how to run my life. You're just a kid.
Don't run my state.
Exactly.
How
We
to run
need
my
to
state.
give our children the respect they deserve from a very early age. So when they are teens, we get into discussions with them, and we join them in the journey of rediscovering themselves.
Yes.
Yeah. Let them not feel that they are isolated or we can't understand them. Let them feel that we are capable of understanding. We might not know what, but we are prepared to listen and learn from them and understand.
Yes.
By understanding and listening, we will be able to give them advice that they will be prepared to take. Yeah. So it's an easy thing, but it needs care.
It's actually not an easy thing, because you know what? We are learning during that understanding. Like, for instance, if you want them to follow a certain thing, especially in Islam, if you want them to to dress up in a certain way or to understand, you need to make them understand the philosophy behind it. So you need to understand that I'm actually not following because it's the social norm. I'm following because this is part of my belief.
My belief.
Okay, if my kid does something, if I ask him why you're doing that, they go like, because everyone. Well, the thing is, he might got it from me when I do something in the weddings and things that we do as a woman, and the girls ask me why. Like, everybody does it, or we have to do it because we can't go and doing. We're actually imposing that ideas in their mind by doing it ourselves, by not knowing why we're doing. So this journey is a learning process for us as well. Before we discuss it with them.
I have a question for you here. Self-discovery is very important. Okay, we have established that we need to be part of it as parents. We might even go through self-discovery
As well,
ourselves.
yeah, absolutely.
So it's an adventure.
It has.
Self-discovery through fashion and the way we wear. Is it the only mean? Or there are other ways of self-discovery? And if there are other ways of self-discovery, because some people might say, self-discovery through clothes? Really? That's so shallow. Yeah. So are there other means of self-discovery in a young adult? And where does fashion fit in that hierarchy?
Well, I would say self-discovery, it's in different means in life. It's even the books that you read, the friends that you hang out with, the places that you feel comfortable staying in. There's a lot of ways, but fashion, or I think it's not very, yes, it's been used in a very shallow ways, yes, and people are being associated with fashion who doesn't have anything much more to do in life. That's the way it's been used. And I would say, if we think of it as communication and as a statement, then we're gonna look into it deeper, even with our kids. So we create that you should have more of sense of style. And by the way, you won't be very confident in yourself until you are confident in your character, in your intellectual abilities, because you're not defining yourself by being fashionable or trendy. There's other things that you're working on, and that's what we need to focus on our kids as well. We need to have that sense of style rather than being just fashionable and following everything. Otherwise, trust me, there's a huge market for everything.
This is something we want to discuss after the second break, inshallah. We still have 10 minutes till then. But the being a follower, or being a leader, this is something we would like to discuss. Maybe after the break, because the break itself sort of tackles the clip that we would play, tackles that issue in one way.
I think there are other ways to express yourself, and there are many examples. One of the examples that we had here in the studio, Dr. Wael, is the 8-year-old Zubaydah, the little girl.
Yeah.
She's 8 years old, and she's very much progressing very well. They're high in her school, and she memorized 6 parts of the Holy Quran.
Mashallah.
And it's not about how she dressed and whatever belief she's following. It's about how she presented herself. And the way she speaks, you feel like she's an adult.
Yeah.
And she impresses everybody. everybody who met her is impressed, by her
She has
intellect.
character. She has character at that age.
She is matured.
Yeah.
Being an 8-year-old, the way the information she is giving, the way she's presenting herself, the words she's choosing are far more beyond her age, and that distinguished her more than anything else.
So the thing is, no matter how she dress up,
Yeah.
she will still put herself out there. But a person like this will always be very mature in the way they dress up. In terms of, they're not going to give it so much attention, because if you're classy and style, you don't really care about what's out there and what's new
Yes.
and what's trendy.
Yes.
That's not a concern to you. But if you are fashionable, or you're thinking in being trendy, let's think of fashion, or let's define it in a way that how we are communicating to the world. I'm putting a statement, but do I need to put statement every day in a certain way? That consumes a lot of my energy and thinking.
Yeah.
Because if I'm thinking to be accepted because I'm dressing up that way, or I'm being that in that fashion, and I have that things, so you are a thing.
And you'll always have that stress
Exactly.
within yourself, that how can I impress others? How can I look in front of others? How do people presume
Absolutely.
to see me? You'll always have that inner pressure
Always inner pressure.
to perfection, which you'll never have.
You mentioned something very
important.
very important.
It's
Yes,
important.
it is important to be trendy. Not trendy. What do we say? Stylish.
To be stylish,
Stylish.
yes, you have nice sense of style. You're putting vocabularies together.
Yes.
Make it simple, make it nice, make it say how you think.
And you make it unique to yourself. Something that will look good on Wael, for example, not necessarily it would be perfect for me. So make it unique for yourself.
I had a discussion with a professor in King's College. We were talking about the, he was very much impressed the way that we Arab women dress up with the scarf and how we made it fashionable. So he was saying that, what makes you guys unique, or the Arab women? I was like, what? He was like, because you guys are different. In the mass production, all the fashion is becoming the same. Everyone is the market. Everyone's on the street, more or less the same. Nothing makes people unique. There is no, vintage or ethnicity in people anymore. We're trying to fit the global image. But by having, for instance, a scarf, that's a statement by itself. And you're creating your own zone, even if you're working in the mass.
Yeah.
So it's a symbol.
It's a symbol. The way he puts it, fashion, the modern ever-changing fashion, which has no spirit or soul in it, versus the way Muslim women present themselves. He used the word vintage.
Vintage, yes.
It's like plastic furniture versus cedar wood. Yeah, plastic. There is no soul in it. Yeah, versus something that is, it has a unique smell to it, touch to it, and also it's priceless. Yeah, no matter how long you have that piece of furniture that is made of solid, authentic wood.
And you'll always relate back to where it came from and the nature.
And there is a history behind it.
Yeah, but by the way, this discussion is more of an adult discussion. So if you said to the teenager, that thing will never get to the attention.
well,
you know what I mean? So,
the whole show targets both. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, if we think of it as a communication, then we'll give attention to not being fashionable, but it's like watching your words.
Yes.
What kind of words am I using? What kind of phrases that I use all the time? So it's watching what you're actually saying to the world without really speaking, because you are making an impression.
Yeah.
And what your son is telling you without actually speaking. Actually, words limits what we think.
Just a thought, an amazing thought now came to my mind. As human being, we always like change. Yeah?
Yeah.
We always like change. Sometimes, you have your bedroom and you just change the furniture so you feel it's fresh. It looks different. Yeah. Today, the fashion or the trend would be big prints. Tomorrow, it would be just plain. It's our nature that change is good. When we live in a desert, we want to go to the sea. It's different. However, despite all of that, everyone else has capitalized on this in fashion and trying to change, especially in the West. However, we as Muslims, women, for example, has, they started with wearing the scarf more than 1400 years ago, and they're still doing so. The fashion itself is timeless. It didn't change.
The style.
Well, it's still fashionable.
Yes.
It's still fashionable. That's
the colors change, the embroideries
of
change.
course.
But the concept is there.
But the concept is there. It never changed. If you look at fashion, women's fashion from the 1940s, where women were fully covered in the West, and then 50s, it's revealing. 60s, more revealing. 70s started to go back into a little bit more coverage. You have more coverage and then somewhere in the middle, in the 1980s, 90s, where there is less coverage, and now it's a mix again. So there is a lot of change. But the way the Islamic, let's say, if we're allowed to say so, the Islamic fashion, women have found, Muslim women have found themselves very comfortable in wearing the hijab, in setting a style that will never change throughout time. However, is acceptable in every age. And even today, the professor that you're talking to in King's College, in the 21st century, he's admiring something that has been there for many, many years.
Yeah.
And I think this is only because it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, it's a divine way. He understands our psychology, our build, and He has set something for us. And because we stick to it, a lot of people like us. Sane people, let's say. Yeah, they like us and they appreciate it. They appreciate it. Maybe they won't do it, but they really appreciate it. And I remember when I was in college in Loughborough in the UK, I was wearing dishdasha most of the time. I wanted to make a statement, and the Arabs who were with me, they said, I think you're too extreme. Go and change. I wasn't always wearing dishdasha. I had my jeans. Yeah, my fleece.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I think we need to get the pictures.
We definitely.
I would love to see your jeans, Dr. Wael.
And I'm very fashionable as well when I choose what I wear. My trousers and
Was
shirts.
it in 1950s?
No, not really. And the teachers and the lecturers used to always, express themselves and tell me, we really admire what you do. And we really respect the way you dress. It went to the extent that even one of the Omanis who didn't even pray, he didn't say his prayers, he never read his Quran, he just brought it with him. But whenever he saw me in college, immediately the first thing he would do is go back home, get cleaned up, do his wudu, ablution, and start to pray. So the message went through to Muslims and non-Muslims.
It goes viral.
Yeah.
It's
So alhamdulillah, it's a very strong statement. Yeah.
You know what I want to emphasize, Dr. Wael and Hadil, is that where is the red line when it comes to distinguishing what is acceptable and what is not acceptable? And when you see a fashion trend, some of the fashion trends today, it insults humanity to an extent which is unbelievable. For example, I read about the gown that Lady Gaga wore in one of the concerts. She was wearing a pure flesh, a dress made out of meat. And this is, to me, it's insulting because you have people around the world who are starving, and it's you have degraded yourself from the level of being an intellect human being to something, I don't have a name for it.
I think some people.
Our young generation, can they distinguish this? That, okay, this is where I stop. Okay, I'm a follower of fashion, I'm this and that. It's okay to follow certain things, but I'm able to distinguish when it comes to right and wrong, and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable.
Very deep question. And I know you are eager to answer it. Yes, eager to answer it after the break, because I think this question needs to be answered fully.
Needs a thinking before answering. Yes,
before answering.
Yes, absolutely.
I would like to provoke some thought. Dear listeners, we'll take a very short break, but before that, I would like to provoke a thinking. Okay, and after that, please call us on 24602058, 24602058. We will play a clip. In this clip, it's about a Muslim fashion designer in New York who was not happy with the fashion available there. It didn't suit her. She did not want to follow. Yeah, so she started her own business and her own designer, and into it just went wild. My question to you: do you want to be a moving mannequin who just tries on other people's work, or do you want to be a person who is intellectual, smart, and you make your own decisions, you decide what you wear, and not like a mannequin who people just put on whatever junk they have on top of you, and you have no say about it? So please listen to the clip, and we'll see you after the break.
The Modern Family. The Modern Family.
So much of women's fashion is about what it reveals. Zinga Knight's line is different. Both glamorous and modest, it allows a stylish woman to stay covered up. The Brooklyn designer is showing her second collection at this year's New York Fashion Week. Evening wear with notably long skirts and sleeves and conservative necklines, some with delicate hand-sewn embroidery. The fashion-forward yet covered-up look is a niche for Knight, and just the kind of clothing she struggled to find as a young Muslim woman coming of age in New York. She says there are a lot of women out there with the same needs.
Oh, sexy, or saying things that she might not want to hear, the person starts saying things like she's beautiful. People focus on the fact that she's intelligent, you know, and she gets to create her own boundaries more through coverage.
One signature way Knight matches femininity with modesty is with the details, like an undergarment trimmed with lace, just barely visible when the mesh fabric of this dress catches the light. Harlem's Fashion Row, a group working to raise the profile of designers of color, is backing Knight and including her in its Fashion Week show. Its CEO says buyers should find her unique style very appealing.
I've never seen it. I have never seen it. So I think that it's something that the market needs, and I think it's something that women are going to really, really want.
Knight's clothes have sold in conservative markets like Dubai and Abu Dhabi, but most of her clients are in the US and Canada, and not always modestly dressed.
I have women who wear a mini skirt or show cleavage, and then the next day they're coming to me asking me for a dress. So it really speaks to the diversity between various women, and then the diversity that we have within ourselves.
Through her designs, Knight is working to redefine beauty, one woman at a time.
The Modern Family. The Modern Family.
Dear listeners, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to The Modern Family. Today's topic is fashion and identity. It's more about what parents need to know about fashion to understand more the lives of their children and teenagers, what they're exposed to. So today we have Hadir Al-Musa, who is doing a PhD in social identity, yeah, and as a mother, as a woman, she is fashion conscious and interested as any other woman to look fashionable, look trendy, and look stylish. There was a very important question, but before the question, this clip of the designer Knight, yeah, Miss Knight, she's talking about a business that she started. What she did is, rather than following the trend and the fashions which did not suit her values, so she has set herself priorities. I have values, and I would like to express myself and express my values through the way I dress. So rather than bring somebody else's, fashion and wear it on and hide my values beneath this and live a contradictive life, I will start a fashion boutique. She says that people, even celebrities, started calling her, asking her for unique dresses, and all her dresses are long dresses with more modest, let's say, and very conservative and not revealing. Yeah, and it says what this dress does is, rather than describing whoever is dressing those dresses as the sexy or very unwanted terms, people start using other words like she is beautiful. Yeah, she looks beautiful. She looks attractive. All the right noises are made. Yeah, when women wear her clothes. This is what we would like to discuss in this part after we address Hatim's question.
Okay. So what was your question then?
This is not a question.
I was lost as well.
No. What we are talking about in this clip is that being a follower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or taking the lead.
Taking the lead. But before that, when we follow, when we follow fashion, what is the red line? Where is there a red line?
Now, for example, to emphasize on that, Hadil, you have the fashion trend of emos. And at some point of time, when you see these young men and women following this fashion trend, which has deep roots,
yes,
and maybe they might not understand what is the background of this fashion trend, you can't distinguish between guys and girls.
And maybe that's the statement they're putting. So you can't really judge them by their gender.
Yeah.
You judge them by human, maybe.
Yeah.
The point I'm trying to say is that we are actually putting statement in the way we present ourselves. But not giving attention at all, we might fall in different traps and we give different messages that we don't really understand why we're doing that.
Yes.
And we don't really understand what messages that we're sending to the people around us. It needs a bit of our attention. It needs a bit deeper reflecting on ourselves. What statement do we want to put out there? What values does really matter to me? And sticking to those values, you're going to evolve the way you dress up or the way you conduct yourself in public around your values.
Yeah.
But if you don't know your values enough and you're following yourself as a follower, then we're going to create more followers.
Yeah. And we were always in this show had to emphasize on creating little leaders.
Yes.
Yeah, we want at least, if not leaders, we want children who have or display qualities of leadership.
One of you mentioned something very important, which is contradictive life. I think what is happening now is that people have that formal life where they present themselves in front of others at work, at social events, being, for example, so-called respectable. And then in their own time zone, they are a totally different person. And they live a different world. And this is a total contradiction, because if you believe what you're doing is right, and that represents your values, present them to others. Don't be shy of what you believe. But if you have that guilt, no, they won't accept me for the values that I have, then you have that, you have that guilt feeling inside you that I'll do it in secrecy, I will do it, behind closed doors. But if you really believe that what you're doing is right, then try yourself. I always, for example, I met a few young men. They were wearing the drop pants and they were wearing earrings in one of their ears, and they had very funny haircuts and this. And I said, for example, today, if you want to propose for marriage, will you go and visit your in-laws and ask the hand of their daughter looking like this? They said, no, impossible. And I said, if you're going for a job interview, will you go looking like this? They said, no, impossible. No, I'll dress properly. And I said, why are you using the word properly? What is properly to you? If what you're wearing now is not properly, it's not proper, why are you wearing it?
And if you feel the people around you worthy of respect, aren't you worthy of respect when you're on your own?
Yeah, but the thing is that, commenting on what you're saying, there's a point that we need to think about as well. When we allow self-discovery or self-experiment or experimenting yourself, that means you're going to allow some room for that person to just try and experiment and give a trial space for that kid. So he's going to try these things. Why? Because until you discover what style you are, sometimes it takes time. And as a parent, they need you as a friend. At the same time, you need to allow that room. Why? Because it's under your supervision. So you know where the kid is actually, hitting and what is attracting his attention. We need to give him a bit of room. When you mentioned about the boy that you were talking about and saying properly or a proper, that means he defines properly according to the context that he's going to. So there are some contexts where you are allowed to be more liberal in the way you dress up, and there are some other contexts where you're not allowed to do so. So when I'm relating what I'm wearing to the context, which is true, because for instance, even when you travel abroad, that you change the way you dress because it's not practical.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you're following. It means you are contextualizing your fashion, but you still have that sense of style because that's an outline that you created for yourself. But until you discover it, sometimes it takes time because we change. We're human. We were different at the 15, when we were 15, and then we were different at the 20s.
I was shocked when you said 50s because
No.
we don't go back that long, man. If you're in the 50s, we weren't born at that time. Me and Dr. Wael, we were at the 80s.
So the point is, we need to give some room.
Okay.
I think we should, but we as a parent we need to be, tolerate
But how
this.
big is that room? That's the question. How big is that?
4 by 5.
This is how you define space.
How much space should you give? When should you step in and say, no, okay, I think this is
You're
too
a
much.
friend, so you're a part of it. You're not stepping in. You are a friend. So basically, when you go shopping with the kids, or when you see the kids the girl presenting her hair in a certain way, or the boy, you can ask why. Or you might show some interest, even if you're not interested. The thing is, we need to create that kind of, friendship with the kids. So you don't step in because you are part of it. You might like that, that dress or that fashion, and you might dress up the same way as well.
One thing I would like to add here is that, in the journey of self-discovery, I personally wouldn't want to give it too much weight and making an excuse for youth to
and
do.
it shouldn't be only through fashion. It
Yes.
should be general journey.
I wouldn't want to make an excuse for our young adults and for teenagers to cause chaos in the way they dress and the way they behave, and I give them an excuse, this is just self-discovery. For example, if I see this guy, for example, and he's dropped down trousers and the haircut and all of that, whip him خيزران خيزران هو منزل السروال عشان خيزران أصلا. طيب the only reason this child or this teenager reached that state is because I, as a parent, might have not engaged in any conversation before, or maybe I did. I didn't do it properly. Yeah, I didn't do it properly, because when my child knows that we come from Islamic background, we are Muslims, we have things that we really can't deviate from. We have things that, yes, there is room for movement. I can wear trousers, I can wear jeans, I can wear shorts, I can do this, I can wear shirts, t-shirts, I can wear caps, different caps, hats, etc. However, there are things that I can't really wear, because of so and so.
There you go.
When my child goes through the journey of self-discovery, he will see on what's available, what's out there, and he would be able to make a judgment. You know what, this is just too much. I wouldn't go there. But this, I would try it out, because it doesn't really contradict with my values, the way I see it.
Yes.
But the way I see it. It might be wrong actually, but at least he made a judgment and said, no, this is going too far.
Dr. Wael, you don't want them to make that judgment based on their parents. So I don't think I can wear this because my dad won't approve this. But you want them also to have that self-judgment. If they go, for example, away from their parents abroad, they still maintain that sense of responsibility and judgment.
I totally agree with
it's
you.
It's not for my dad. It's not for the community. I fully understand the responsibility and why I shouldn't be wearing this. Yeah.
Number one. And number two, what am I saying to the world?
Yes.
The more you give him weight to this voice, the more he will be responsible of that voice.
Yes, yes. But it's not about what to wear in front of my father and what not to wear in front of him. It's not about being scared. It's just, this is what my father taught me, yeah, and I'm convinced, so I won't do it, yeah, and I'm convinced, not that I'm following blindly, yeah. And talking about following, fashion, what role does it play in creating independent human beings, independent youth? Because it's all about following, yeah. Is it all about following what X, Y, and Z design for us?
It's a capitalist world. I'll go for this is my own personal
I want
opinion.
to emphasize on this.
The capitalist world. Okay, I see you like it. Okay, the capitalist world is creating followers. It's creating two things. It's creating consumer behavior. So your priorities is it's very material, and you are identifying yourself with, again, the tangible outcomes that you have, the tangible owning that you own, things that you own. So it's making you, in a way, a thing. That's the capitalist world. It's making you a thing in this life. You are
an object.
You are an object. Even the language of HR, how many heads per head? It's a number.
Yeah.
You are countable in this number, in this world. At the same time, you are replaceable. So that applies on everything, including fashion. I'm just a number. I can be replaced by anyone else, and I don't really count as a human. I am just a number that will finish.
I think we have another dilemma, which is we don't have much alternatives, because when you go to the market, if you're presuming that, okay, this is what is acceptable, and this is what is not acceptable for my family, but the things which are not acceptable might overcome the things that are acceptable. So the choices.
No, here
the choice is there, because what are we bombarded in the market is what they want us to,
of course,
to wear and to follow.
Absolutely.
So you have very little. I would say that
choice.
Decent designers who think about their values so much.
You don't need to wear a
deeply.
designer top to toe. That's the thing.
Any person who is designing clothes, not necessarily Gucci and the gang, but anybody who is designing clothes, they should have the values. They want to present a message. It's not for the market.
It's again a capitalistic world. If you don't have money, how are you going to live? You need to make money. It's a fashion industry. It's a business. Even the designers that they have values, some of them they have to have, collections, seasons. That's a business. That we need to understand that they need to do this in order to be in the market. Otherwise, they're out of the market.
The lady, the clip that we just heard, she's unique. She went against the values of most of the fashion designers, and she had her own unique values, and it worked.
But
because
she also made a product.
They thirst for something good,
something different,
different.
She
because
found a
all
niche.
around us, what we see is the same thing, is the same fashion, which carry the capitalist values. But if you have something which has humane values, something different, people will not hesitate to come and buy from you, and you would be representing that value.
Again, I will go. It's a huge business. Like, for instance, even if you are a good designer with the good values, but you are very expensive, people will not afford to wear you.
Yes.
And you are actually segmenting, so you're choosing the elite to wear your stuff. And so, as a normal human being who doesn't want to put so much attention to the way we dress up, because there's much more I can give you in the world rather than the way I look, I need to make it decent because it's part of my message. But at the same time, in this market, it's always the good thing about, I think, globalization, that although we might not agree in everything, but you have the option to choose between. With the virtual marketing, you can create your own thing. You can buy your own thing. You can put the own thing.
In the old days, we're not going back to.
We didn't have much
many
options those days.
No, we actually did. We did have a lot of options. what my mother used to do, and my sisters, and everyone else during those days in the 80s and 90s, you go to a tailor and choose whatever you want, and it will be made for you. Yeah,
And you'd be
so
unique.
we actually had more choice.
By the way, sometimes we fall in this trap, huh? Just being unique. And that what Lady Gaga is doing.
Yeah.
It's just being unique. I don't want to be the same. So let me خالف تعرف.
Yeah.
Where
Yes.
anything that will get everyone attention, it's being something irreplaceable.
I think also it's very important to educate people, educate the market, educate the parents on what does fashion represent. Once I took my brother to a shop where they sell T-shirts for teenagers, and I saw a T-shirt hanged. When you enter the shop, you just see that T-shirt. It has a symbol of the false Messiah, the pyramid with the eye. And I asked one of the parents in the shop, do you know what this symbol means? He said, no, it's just a pyramid. And I asked the shopkeeper, do you know what the symbol means? He said, no, it's just, I think Egypt represents Egypt. And people buy it, and youngsters wear it, not knowing what it represents. I think, and this is where it becomes dangerous, that we don't know what we're wearing anymore. We're just bombarded with things, and because it's available in the market and it's cheap.
Flip-flops and shirts with weed and ganja and and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. Now, well, Google does it. So you can Google even if you're in the shop, knowing if that really matters to you. If you, the thing is, and again, I'll go back to this. We are making a statement. So we need to think. Give it a bit of value. Sometimes people actually buy for the for the package, for sales. It's a huge market, but we need to know what fits us in that market. The thing, what I really think is dangerous is more than wearing what I don't know because I bought it for the offer or whatever. It's a trend and it's gonna go, but being trapped in the concept of I am fashionable and I have to always be fashionable, that will make... there was a very interesting research I've came across a couple of weeks back. It says that in the globalization and capitalist world, you can't really recognize the social class of the people that, where they come from, because everybody wants to be fashionable and wants to wear all those brands and designers. So they are buying things they cannot afford. And they are trapped in this. And that's why when you come and try to analyze, previously fashion used to... they used to use it, researchers used to use fashion as a tool to analyze the social relations, social different things in the society. But now, because everybody is trapped in the capitalist world and under being fashionable and so on, we are buying things we can't afford. We are putting, like if you're going to somewhere, for instance, when I tell people I'm in London, they go like, oh, so you are in the shopping, that beautiful shopping. Yeah, but that's not the only thing in London. There's much more.
Yeah.
Culture.
Which we don't really see.
Yeah.
So it's, we need to be aware how far or how deep are we in this fashionable category.
I think some of the consumers would say, thank God that we have China. And now everything is replicated, and I can wear Gucci that costs 2 riyals.
By the way, this again is a statement. So it means you're looking for social category, even if that's fake.
Yes.
This is what I really don't like.
This is a different topic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it turns people into followers.
Into followers.
Yeah, you become enslaved to the brands and to the names. Yeah. So if I buy something, I don't buy it because it's durable or it will last. It will be practical. It looks nice. No, it's just because
or has any sentimental value in it.
It's Gucci. It's Gucci, and the Gucci whatever. Sorry, Gucci, but I mean fake Gucci. Yeah. You buy it 2 days later, and the Gucci actually peels off. Yeah. What do you do with the bag? The whole thing, you throw it away because it doesn't say Gucci anymore.
No, there's a very, this is another point, as you mentioned, is if I'm buying fake just to show that I can actually wear these things and being socially accepted, if you're happy that people are accepting you because the things that you have or you own, they don't really care much about you.
Yes.
This is what we need to know.
And also, if we will be spending a lot of money on these fake items, because let's be honest, these are not cheap. Even if you go to in the Far East, you could get a genuine, product, unbranded, leather handbag, for example, and you have another leather handbag which is synthetic leather, and it says I don't know, Fendi, Prada, whatever.
Well, you are aware of brands, huh?
Am I?
There's an interesting thing that if you create a name, it doesn't really matter what you put under that name.
Yeah.
Like Chanel, she said, who cares if the pearls are fake if it's Chanel? She knows her name is much bigger than the being original. Yeah.
In the last couple of minutes, Hadil, what is the main message you would like to take forward to our listeners and parents and youth as alike?
I'm a parent and I'm a woman, and I like to, dress up well because that's a code of a good manner. I think we need to give a little bit deep thinking about what statement we're making to our kids, to the world, and at the same time, not being fault in that trap. I'll end up with a quote for, I think I'm not quite sure, but I think it's Rostat, saying that there's a very well-dressed up man who came to talk to him, but he was just standing there. So he told him, "Speak so I can see you."
Speak so I could see you. So it's actually not the way you dress, not the way you present. It's you need to look deeper into people. Thank you very much,
I think
Hadil.
Before we let Hadil go, I have a quote to say, and I have a question, but I don't expect it to answer here, maybe later on. Why do women can't wear the dress twice in a wedding? For the
that question will never have an answer, and I think Hatim...
I'm not going to answer that one. I'm not going to represent all of them.
Okay, the quote for the day is: fashion was designed for the wealthy, believed by the poor.
Thank you very much, Hatim, and thank you, dear listeners, and thank you, Hadil, for being a wonderful guest today. I really enjoyed the show and learned a lot from it, and I hope, dear listeners, that you have also learned and enjoyed from this show. From me, Wa'il Al-Harrasi, and everyone in the studio, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam.
The Modern Family. The Modern Family. Let us bridge the gap between generations. Let us shape up the modern family.
I remember